One of the recommended videos was life thoughts. And I think that's a funny one because obviously your life thought and my life thought and Tom's life thought and Sally's life thought and Brennan's life thought. Everyone's different. Everyone has different backgrounds, they have different experiences, they have a different present, they have different goals for the future. So it's really tough to make a video on life thoughts. But I have been getting fairly deep lately, and it's not because I'm trying. I just continue to have these thoughts, and I don't know where they come from. In fact, if we're talking life thoughts, consciousness is very interesting. I'm beginning to believe that consciousness is not our own. I'm beginning to believe that there is a universal consciousness that exists kind of regardless of what happens in our own individual lives. So, something that got me thinking about this was the idea of Philo T. Farnsworth. So, Philo T. Farnsworth was a school teacher in Rigby, Idaho, in the United States. And he really believed that he could take pictures and make motion picture through something called a television. Now, I don't know the science behind all of this, but I do know that at the time, it's not like there were science journals that were being circulated around the world. There was speculation and people would hear things, but it would take a long time, possibly by telegraph, but more than anything, letters that are on horseback. It's not like it was easy to get a letter from China to the United States. Yet, while he's building the television, it seems that there were 5 or 6 other people that were doing the exact same thing all over the world. Maybe slightly different, but they were doing the same thing. This suggests to me that there is a universal consciousness that exists, and it wasn't possibly Philo T. Farnsworth's idea that was his own. Possibly it was an idea that was meant to go to several people at different times. Now, he was plowing a field apparently one day and he noticed the rows of potatoes, and that hit him. He went, well, if we can have rows of picture that are different colors. Now, remember, back then it was black and white, so you had all the tones from white to black and varying tones within that, so the grays and the dark grays and the light grays and all of that. That's what made him realize that we can make this TV thing happen. And he did. And I don't know the full story, but I think he got a patent on it, and then that patent was infringed on, and just all the stuff. But that's kind of the life thought that has been going through my head lately. What if these ideas that I have are not mine? And I'm okay with that. I hope that I'm not egotistical enough to believe that any idea that I have is completely my own idea and it's all mine, so I should get all the glory. No, I think it's very much the opposite. What have I tapped into that is allowing these ideas to come? And if I can tap into different ideas, that means I can also tap into different vibrational states. And so if I want good in my life, I need to make sure that I'm living a good frequency. If I want bad in my life, which I don't think any of us do, we vibrate at that frequency. So then I'm reading in the book of Enoch, in the book of Jubilees, which is in the Apocrypha, and it actually talks about how before the world was, there was vibration. Before the world was, there was frequency. So now we get to learn, like all of the modern science, thinking that we're so smart today as we find these ancient civilizations that I believe were much more advanced than we are. And we talk about how important frequency and vibration are. Well, then we get to the subatomic level, and I'm about to expose that I am not a particle physicist right now, but you get to the subatomic level and all of a sudden Newtonian physics goes out the window. If you want to see a subatomic particle like a quark, you have to want to see it. When you want to see it, it pops up. So then we have this double slit experiment that I'm sure a lot of people have heard of and read about, where essentially scientists were able, they tried to trick light, and it didn't work because the light knew they were tricking them, until they did a trick on a trick on a trick, and they tricked the light to not act like a wave. It didn't act like a frequency at that point. It's almost like it acted in its own way, whatever it wanted to do. And that's kind of my life thoughts of the day is we live a life where we can make a lot of impact within our own sphere. Some people can even change the entire world. But just as an atom may act different within its sphere, that act of difference doesn't change the fact that it's still a molecule of water. It's got hydrogen and oxygen, and that makes water. Well, it doesn't have to be completely obedient within its sphere. Excuse me. Now, maybe on the atomic level, it has to be pretty, let's say, obedient. But on the subatomic level, it doesn't necessarily have to be obedient. It just has to live within its own sphere. And that's made me really think about the world that we live in. So we are serial entrepreneurs, and sometimes that gets a bad connotation, like, oh, this dude's just out there to make money. Well, obviously, money is important because that's how we live our life. Society has based it off of money, but I can promise you that my wife and I, we focus on the value that's given to the customer. So it's really interesting that within the sphere and the community of our businesses, the decisions that we make affect that business, but they don't go much further than that. And I know this sounds like limited thinking, because the larger your impact, the larger you can go out and the larger you can make change within the world. But the actions that you make within your own life are actually very important. If you choose to hit snooze on the alarm 5 or 6 times, that's actually very important when it comes down to your life. So when I begin working with a business coaching client or a business where we're going in and helping them implement artificial intelligence, some of our first questions are very menial, small questions. And it seems so weird to the customer in the beginning because they're like, why does that matter? Well, it matters because each employee within their sphere is integral to that business. And the same thing goes for you. You are extremely integral within your sphere. So all of the decisions that you're making throughout the day actually impact your entire world, because you could liken this to an atom. You have all these subatomic particles that are mostly working for the common good, but every once in a while some live a little bit outside of what they're supposed to do, what Newtonian physics says they're supposed to do. Well, Einstein looked at that and he didn't completely understand it. He called it spooky action at a distance, which can go into string theory and all the stuff that I truly just don't understand enough to teach. But what I do understand is your impact matters. What you do today literally echoes in the eternities. So if you take a lazy day and watch TV all day, is that really going to change much? Probably not. But what if you don't? What if you give yourself a limit on how much TV you're watching? What if you give yourself a goal that you're going to learn a certain subject every single day, and you start doing that every day for 365 days a year? What if you really focus on those relationships and you go, you know what, I'm going to serve today. So maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's a kid, maybe it's a business partner. You go, something today I'm just going to do to serve. Add value with no expectation. That's kind of what I'm talking about. You can make massive impact within your sphere. Now, as your impact grows, that's when we can start to change the world. I know that I'm not in a position right now that I can go make life-changing, maybe for my own life, but to go out and change the world. The decisions that I make today impact hundreds and possibly 1,000 people. Like, those are the decisions that are in my life right now. Some people have way more than that and some people have way less than that, and that's fine. But we do need to make those decisions to impact our life and those who are in our life right now. So that's my little challenge to you. Make some impact. Make some great impact. Sorry for the noise. There's some kids out on the beach that are having a lot of fun, making some impact. Thank you guys and have a good day.